Hello, and welcome to the Cycle Endometriosis podcast, where we will delve deep into experiences, challenges, and triumphs of those navigating a life with endometriosis. Join us as we share the stories of resilience, offer insights from experts, and foster a community of support for those affected by this often misunderstood condition. Whether you're newly diagnosed, a seasoned warrior, or seeking understanding, I hope this podcast is here to help empower you and uplift you on your journey. Tune in as we break the silence, shatter stigmas, and amplify the voices of the endometriosis community. Medical disclaimer: this podcast is not intended for the purpose of providing medical advice. All information, content, and material of this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to serve as a substitute for the consultation, diagnosis, and/or medical treatment of a qualified physician or healthcare provider. Thank you so much for being here, and now on to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's episode of the Cycle Podcast. I have a guest joining me from all the way across the pond in Germany. Wenke, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so grateful to chat with you.
Thank you for having me with you.
Yes. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Wenke. I am German, but I actually live in the UK. And I had stage 4 endometriosis, suffered for lots and lots of years, trying to find solutions everywhere. I don't know how much money I spent on seeing consultants and trying to find something that could help me. And then, came across eventually, after a long journey and literally pain, undescribable pain, as many of you listening out there will be familiar with, came across a study that linked endometriosis and cancer, as it happens, via the original cell change. And being German, I was familiar with a German cancer protocol called the Budwig diet that my parents both used to help them when they both had cancer. My dad had stage 4 bowel cancer, my mom had thyroid cancer. And I just put one and one together and decided, this could be the solution that has so far eluded me, and ended up ringing a center in Germany that uses the Budwig Protocol to cure cancer patients, called the 3E Center. And they were very much, we've never had anyone with endometriosis, so we have no idea if this protocol is going to help or not. You would literally be your own guinea pig. And this is something we're hopefully going to talk about further down the line. I had this really intuitive feeling, when you just suddenly feel something feels right. And after years and years of trying all sorts of holistic therapies, something just really resonated. I just knew I had to try this. It was kind of also my last resort. As you guys listening will hear, I have a hoarse voice, and that comes from a second chronic condition I have called laryngeal papillomatosis. Just as impossible to pronounce as endometriosis was when I first got diagnosed, and I'd never heard of it. And that's growth on the vocal cords, and I had 5 operations on that. And so that's kind of not quite resolved yet, but I'm healing and I'm getting better with that. So I rang this German center and they were like, well, you can be the guinea pig if you want, but we've never healed anyone with endometriosis. And I decided to do it. It was 10,000 euros to go for a month. But by that point, I had lost my voice. I was in absolute agony 2 weeks every single month. And then had 2 weeks to kind of lead a normal life before my next period came along. And I just thought, either this is going to work, I'm going to kill myself, basically. I literally was at that point. I'd been collecting tablets and I had morphine stuck away in the cupboard, and I seriously thought, how can I end this? Because I was just in so much pain. I didn't want to be here anymore. I went to Germany, paid the money, and I've never regretted one single penny, because this protocol has literally saved me. And within 2 months, I could tell something was shifting. Whereas everything I tried before was managing symptoms. This was the first time in years I had felt like my body was actually responding in a healing way. After 6 months of being on this Budwig Protocol, I would say I was back to having normal periods, where what I would describe as normal periods, which was painful for about 5-6 days. And pain I could manage with paracetamol and ibuprofen. The absolute agonizing pain that GPs tell you, oh, just take painkillers, and they're not going to do anything. So that if you're lucky, they will take the very tiniest bit of the edge off, and that would be it. Excuse me. And so, yeah, I could feel after 6 months on this protocol, I was back to normal periods. And after 18 months, I had reached a point that I never even dreamt about when I started on this, which was not a single symptom. There was no pain. It was literally, I remember that first period when that happened, I went to the toilet and it was like, oh, I'm bleeding. I had no pain before the period came on, nothing, no tension in my lower back or in my tummy or anything. Normally I could tell like 2-3 days before you would start feeling the pain coming on. Right. And then when it started bleeding, it would be like 2-3 days horrendous. And then it would ease off, but it would take, with me, in the end, 2 weeks for the pain to properly be gone. Like that dull, constant ache that's just there and becomes part of your life. None of that was there anymore after 18 months. Like literally nothing. I literally couldn't believe what was happening. So even I was like, can this be true? Like, right. I doubted my own healing. And then, I just stuck to the protocol, and I thought, I'm just going to keep this going. It's clearly working. And I've not had anything since. And this has been, I went to Germany in 2016. So
10 years.
I would say by 2018, I was fully healed. It was June 2016. I went to Germany. By 2018, January, I had no symptoms left. I had 5 centimeter cysts on both ovaries. They completely disappeared. They disappeared already within 6 months. So amazing. And I then was there probably 2 years in, thinking, I really want to share this. And I wanted to, by that point, I used to be a German teacher, and I'd lost my voice, so I couldn't work as a teacher anymore. So I decided, well, why don't I retrain? So I went and I wanted to retrain as a Budwig consultant so I could advise other people on the protocol. But to do that, you had to either be a doctor or a therapist, because it was like an add-on training. And I wasn't either at that point. But I had lots of time because I was unemployed. I'd been healing from endometriosis. I'd lost my job because of the voice. I'd given myself the time to heal and just focus on myself. So in that sense, I was lucky. And then ended up saying, okay, I'll retrain. And I spent 14 months doing a health and life coach training that then allowed me to do the Budwig consultant training. And in the process, I also trained in various modalities that had helped me, like Reiki and shamanic healing. And, I became a Reiki master. I became a shamanic practitioner. I'm an EFT. I don't know, some people might be aware of EFT tapping, an EFT and matrix re-imprinting practitioner. So all these sort of energy healing modalities that have helped me on my journey, I trained in so that I would be able to help the women that would come to me and work with me. So it was quite a journey, because obviously the trainings take time.
Yeah.
And then at some point I was then running programs for women with endometriosis. So I still do that today. So they're 12-week programs because it's a lifestyle change you need. There's a reason you become ill. So it's lifestyle, mindset, all those things come together. So to change your habits takes repetitive behavior changes.
Yeah.
So I could teach everyone what I know in probably about 2 weeks because I'm a good teacher. I've had teaching experience. I know how to take something complex and make it simple. But to actually then put it into your life and change the behaviors takes 3 months.
Yeah.
So in my programs, I'm there and I hold the light while you change your life.
Right.
And I give you the hope and the energy and the confidence that people might need while they're going on that journey. Because of course it's a gradual improvement. It's not going to happen overnight. So, and there will be ups and downs on it. There's times where as your body is shifting into a new metabolic functioning, sometimes the pain increases very briefly before it then gets better. I always say, I imagine the healing journey as your journey into illness was a gradual journey. And what we're doing in the healing journey when we do it holistically is we are retracing our steps back to what health should be. And on that journey, you almost have to sometimes go back through some of the pain you've experienced on the journey to the illness. So in holistic therapy, we call it healing crises, where often we will experience the same thing that we've experienced getting ill, we'll experience getting healthy. So during that time, doubt might come up, or you might question yourself, or you might think, oh, I'm doing all this and I'm still in pain. So that's what I think having a coach on your side is really useful for, someone who will give you that courage to carry on when you have those doubts creeping in, because they will. I've been on that journey 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, it gets better gradually, but you have days where, your period comes and you'll still be in pain again.
Yeah. Right. And then you just think, oh my gosh, I did all this work and nothing happened. And but it is still happening. It's just ups and downs. It's not linear. Healing is not linear.
No, exactly. Healing is not linear. I always say it's like a spiral. And you'll re-meet yourself, but you're going upwards. You're going up and out of the illness, but you will spiral upwards.
Wow, I think it's absolutely incredible, though, that you took what you went through and found this, protocol, and then totally changed your whole life to help other people.
I'm so grateful today for the illness because I'm literally living my best life. When I was a teacher, I taught languages and I taught business German at the end to adults, and it was almost like I'd known my whole life from the age of 6 that I was on this earth to be a teacher, but I tried to work out what I was here to teach. I went and did a degree in teaching originally and went into schools very briefly and decided not here to teach kids. Then went into adult education and I was like, yeah, it's adults, but I don't think I'm here to teach languages. And I always felt like I was on some sort of parallel track to where I belonged. And then the illness happened, meant, I couldn't teach anymore. Identity crises. But then the healing journey got me back to the teaching, health and well-being. And that is totally where I know I belong. Like, I feel so at home here. And I know this is what I've come to this planet for.
I love that. It's so beautiful. It really is so beautiful.
So I guess for us here today on the podcast, it's giving people the hope that actually illness might just be what leads you to your perfect life. And that the illness is here as an instrument to do that.
Right. And when you're in it, it can be really hard to realize or to maybe feel that way when you're really in the depths of it.
I had years and years where I saw endometriosis as the enemy and as something I was fighting. Yeah. And that's a massive shift that actually happened at the cancer clinic in Germany. The first thing they taught us, and we had mindfulness sessions every single day. We had therapy sessions with like coaches that would look at your limiting beliefs and at your own family patterns. And then, you had all the holistic therapies as well. But one of the things, the very first things they said was, we need you to regard your illness as your friend. And that was massive. It's not easy to do that,
No.
when it's causing you so much suffering and pain.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
when we look at it from an energetic perspective, and hopefully like talking today, we're going to get people to shift a little bit into that energetic perspective, away from just seeing ourselves as a body. The energy of seeing someone as an enemy is obviously an energy of conflict. And that energy, you're almost creating two sides and separation and an energy of opposition. Whereas healing comes from an energy of oneness or an energy of unity. So the biggest shift was to start seeing endometriosis not as my enemy. I wouldn't say I got there as seeing as a friend too quickly.
Yeah, took some time.
I think the first step is to just neutralize it and to say, okay, it is what it is right now. I've got this illness. Let's focus on me. Let's focus on my healing. And let's almost push endometriosis aside as something I'm up against and focus on my own healing. And with that, I can bring that energy of oneness and unity and love into the field. And on the basis of that, your body will then be reset into away from the stress response into a healing response. So your sympathetic nervous system will switch off. You're going into parasympathetic. And that's the only place where healing can even remotely exist as a possibility. While you're in fight flight, and when I'm seeing endometriosis as an enemy, I am fighting it. My body as a system cannot go into healing. And that is such an important thing to realize.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes complete logical sense to me, especially if your nervous system is in this heightened state. And I feel like a lot of times because of the pain too, your nervous system is just in this state that you can't get out of because your body is fighting constantly.
All the time. Absolutely. Yeah. Totally. And we all, all of us who've suffer from endometriosis know that it's almost like it just controls your life. It governs who you are. There is no place for joy or ease. Even the 2 weeks when I was feeling okay, I was already anticipating my next period. It's there. It's going to come and hit you.
Yes.
We all know when we suffer from endometriosis how it governs our social calendars.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. How you just know, no, I can't come out to the cinema because I'm going to have my period.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't go for a coffee because I'll be crippled on the sofa with a hot water bottle,
Yes. Or I can't plan this vacation that I want to go on because I'm not sure if I'm going to be on my cycle or not and be able to enjoy it and function. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. And I was lucky, and not many of us are that lucky. My periods came like clockwork. Yeah. So I could manage my calendar around my periods. So yeah, if it was a book a holiday, I would go on my period app and I could say, well, this is when I'm not on my period, so let's book it then.
Right.
But it's like that, and it shouldn't be like that. That something like that, like an illness, governs how you live your life.
Yeah, right, for sure. So leading into doing this, and I want, however much you're like willing to share about what the protocol is, or like at least very high level, but leading into this, it sounds like, you said you had stage 4. I'm guessing you had many years probably of struggling with the illness before getting to this point.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit just about like that early time before you went to the center.
So I started my period, like many of people with endometriosis, I started my periods quite early. So I was 11 when my period started, which today is more normal because I think hormonally everything has changed so much. But I'm 49 now. So, I started at 11, and I remember I was only the second girl in the whole year at school who had started her periods. And I've always had painful periods. I remember my mum saying when I first got my first, I was like sitting on the loo and was like, oh my God, shock, there's blood, And I remember my mum going, oh, now you've got that shit too. I mean, that was literally her words. And then she gave me some pads and was like, well, this is what's going to happen now every month. And that's it. That was, the explanation I got. And you are there and it's like you're bleeding and nobody really takes you by the hand and actually connects you to the sacredness of the womb, to your role as a woman, as the creator of life, and all the things that we as women are and should be. It was like, oh, you've got that shit now. And get used to it because it'll be there every month and it's going to be painful. So it was that mindset, there was almost no expectation of anything different because my grandmother had had painful periods, my mum had had painful periods, and that's what you just had to endure as a woman.
Yeah, I mean, that's what gets passed down. It's very similar to me too. It's just like, I'm sorry, but this is the way it is, and good luck.
Yeah. So I'd had painful periods. By 17, I started going on the pill because my gynecologist thought this would solve some of the issues, and it did. I still had painful periods, but they were a lot shorter. I felt I was in control more. Like if I went on holiday, I could just take the pill through that month and not have a period. And I lived with, the periods the way they were. Painful until I got to 29 when I decided I want to have a child. And it's not quite as easy. I mean, I had painful periods despite the pill even. So I ended up going self-employed because I knew my periods would always come on a Thursday. So self-employed, I could arrange for Fridays to be off. So I knew I would get my period on Thursday. By the time I was back due at work on Monday, I would have got through the worst of it. And I could then manage the pain on Monday with painkillers. So it was still painful. They
You
were
adjusted your life,
periods.
Right. You worked around it like most of us do.
Exactly.
You had to find a workaround.
Yeah. So by that point, I had no idea endometriosis was even a thing or existed. To me, I just had painful periods, which in my world, every woman had, because at that point, we didn't talk about this thing. I love that we have podcasts now where we can actually go and share what we're going through. Because when I was there, you didn't talk about your periods. Everybody just managed them by themselves and that was it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was almost shameful to admit you had it.
Part of the problem. It's part of
that this is what brings life about on this planet. We should celebrate our periods, really.
Yes. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's actually, for us endo patients, probably doesn't sound right, but it's actually like a very beautiful, incredible thing.
Should be, yes, exactly. So I knew that because I'd been on the pill for several years, I wanted my body to be clean and cleansed before ready to receive a baby, if you like. So I went to a Chinese practitioner, drank all sorts of teas and concoctions for about 6 months, totally cleansed my body, and was lucky, which not a lot of endometriosis sufferers are, because it does cause infertility. The first time we tried, I conceived. Wow. Who I was because I did all that cleansing work with the Chinese medicine. So ended up having my son, decided I wasn't going to go back on the pill because during pregnancy I had some spotting. And when we investigated that once he was born, they said, oh, you've got some changed precancerous cells on your cervix. They did. I went in for a day case and they froze them, whatever they do with laser or whatever, I don't know. So that was all fine. But when I looked at the pill I was on, it caused cervical cancer, and my grandmother had died of cervical cancer. So to me, going back on the pill was not an option. So I said, okay, I'm going to do natural contraception, which you can do quite easily, actually. It's amazing, by just measuring your temperature at the time. That's what I was doing. And recording your periods. Now you've got an app to do it. And then if your periods are regular, you know when your ovulation day is roughly, and you're just careful around those dates. So I did that. About when you have a child, obviously for 9 months you don't have periods, so that was great.
Right.
And then while you're breastfeeding, also you don't have periods. So it was probably when my son was about 2, I started experiencing problems again. And they very quickly deteriorated into horrendous pain again. When my son was 4, I would have had a second child, but yeah, we never did anything to prevent that, but it didn't happen. So, and I'm convinced it's because of the endometriosis. Second child didn't happen. So yeah, and then I tried. By that point, I still didn't know I had endometriosis. Tried to find out what was going on, went to the GPs like we all do, going, I've got such pain in my periods, there must be something wrong. No, there's nothing wrong, just take ibuprofen, blah, blah, blah. The normal, you feel like a hypochondriac. You think you're a wimp because clearly other women are fine with their periods and you have got such a low pain threshold that you can't bear your periods. So I made it all my fault. Not realize, I so often wished I would have some sort of sensors that I could put onto other people so we could just compare the pain level.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I can't imagine that I'm making all this up.
And that everyone else is hiding it behind closed doors.
Yeah,
and you're just,
because literally when I was in pain, there was no hiding it. I would,
no.
I would be pale as a sheet. Even at school, I remember them sending me home from school because the teachers were like, you've got to go home. You're not well.
Yeah.
So there is no hiding it. So I spoke to a few of my friends. By that point, I thought, well, I'm going to have to talk about my period now. And speaking to my friends, it was pretty clear to me that they were not going through what I was going through. That the normal premenstrual syndrome pain was very different to what I was experiencing. So I went to my gynecologist and I went to the doctor. Gynecologist said, right, we have to investigate this. I'm not stepping down. This needs to be looked at. And my gynecologist here in the UK said, I think you might have endometriosis. I had never heard of this, and because it was such a difficult word, I didn't even really listen. She says, we can do a laparoscopy and find out. That's the only way to diagnose it properly. She said, the plan will be to go in. We're going to go in through your navel. I can then put a camera in there. I can have a look what's going on. And if there is endometriosis present, I will laser it away. So that was the plan. So I went for the laparoscopy. Remember waking up from the anesthetic. And I was still in that sort of half-dosed state where you're not quite back yet. And the gynecologist came to see me before she went home and was just like, well, it was a lot worse than we thought. I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks. I couldn't laser anything away because everything in there was so inflamed. There was so much of it. We can't do anything. I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks. You've got endometriosis. Again, by that point, I was in that little dreamland still from the anesthetic. I could not remember the word she had said. I just knew all that was playing in my mind was, it's a lot worse than we thought. We couldn't do anything because it was so bad.
Not what you want to hear when you wake up. Yeah.
I don't know how your American system is. In the UK, it's horrendous. So I had to now wait for 2 weeks before I saw her again and could actually speak to her to find out what was wrong with me.
Goodness.
Within those 2 weeks, a letter arrived that was like, I am German living in the UK and I have language degrees. I speak French and I studied Russian, but, it was a letter full of all sorts of medical terms I had never heard of. Fibrosis, pouch of Douglas being, merged with endometriosis. And there was all sorts of, stuff that I'd never heard before. But at least I now had the word endometriosis and I could go online and actually Google what that was.
Right.
And it said 1 in 10 women have it. And I was like, are you kidding me? 1 in 10 women have this. And I, as a woman, don't even know the word. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
So I was completely flabbergasted. So I then went back 2 weeks later. She said, right, we've got to put you onto what was Prostap at the time, which is like male hormones, basically, that put your system to sleep. That gave me 6 months of no periods. And her plan had been to then do a hysterectomy when the inflammation had gone down. And I was adamant I didn't want a hysterectomy. My mum had had a hysterectomy at 42 and always struggled balancing her hormones. So I didn't really want a hysterectomy. So I started looking at all the holistic pathways, homeopathy, Bowen therapy, massage, acupuncture, all that stuff. And I managed the symptoms for many, many years with holistic approaches that helped me just regulate the pain, really. I'm German, so I regularly used to go to Germany to see a gynecologist there. So when I went to see her and I said, right, I've been diagnosed with endometriosis, she said, oh, you know, you can do a lot with endometriosis when you're looking at nutrition. And I was like, are you joking me? Like in the UK, they want me to give me a hysterectomy, and you are telling me in Germany now I can look at my nutrition? So I came back, studied, went and cut out dairy, cut out wheat, and that already made a massive difference. I had endometriosis on my bowel. Like literally when I had my period, I could not go to the toilet because it was so painful. I would stand in the shower and wee in the shower because I couldn't sit on a toilet because of the pain. So the nutrition and changing, taking out wheat and dairy really made a massive difference on my digestive health already, way before I went to Germany. So yeah, and then it spiraled.
That helped me too.
I would say for about 6 years. I managed.
Yeah, and some people I know listening probably still do it and they're okay with it. I think it's very different for everyone. It helped me too. I think I was just so inflamed. Removing that just helped calm the inflammation. And I always say this on the show, but I just want to remind everyone that a hysterectomy is not a cure for endometriosis, even though doctors still tell people that.
Yeah. And I think it's really worth doing your research. Like I really looked at the studies, you know? And then you find, when you look at the data, you find that 60% of hysterectomies, women who go for hysterectomies with endometriosis, end up having symptoms again 2-3 years after the hysterectomy, because the endometriosis tissue is in other areas of your body and not just in your womb. Yeah. So yeah, hysterectomy takes the womb away. But if your endometriosis tissue is on your bladder, on your bowel, on your ovaries, you know, they've been found in the brain, they've been found on the lungs, they will still bleed every month and cause scarring, adhesions, pain. So a hysterectomy is sometimes the solution. And I know plenty of people who've had it and have had no problems afterwards. But the data shows that that is about 30 to 35% of people.
Yeah.
And to me, the 65% was just not a good enough statistic.
Yeah. Okay. So you start doing you change your diet, you're feeling better, and then you go to the center.
Well, and then I lose my voice. So then the voice starts a spiral. I have 5 operations over 4 years probably. And each operation then meant, I think because of the anesthetic and the emotional stress, with not being able to work and losing my identity as, you know, what's my life purpose. So with each operation on the voice, my endometriosis got worse again. And then by the time I'd got my endometriosis back under control, the next voice operation was due. So I was in this vicious cycle where I was, you know, healing the one. It was almost like the 2 illnesses, like
fighting,
did totally opposite things. And I was triggering the one with the other. So I was in this spiral for about 5 years of operations on the voice and then getting the endometriosis back under control, next operation due, starting the whole cycle again. And by the end of that, I was just exhausted. I was utterly exhausted. Like managing those two illnesses had become my life. I wasn't living life. And in the process, I'm trying to be a mom, I'm trying to be a wife, I'm trying to be a friend, and I'm still, trying to somehow keep it all together.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
And I reached a point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And that's when the Germany thing came in, when the study came in, which we are going to link as well. And I go to Germany and with this protocol start healing. So there's actually a lot of online information. So if you look up Budwig diet, Budwig diet, it's a cancer protocol. But there's a lot of information online. I'm in the process at the moment of producing videos and cooking videos and things like that. So people can learn what they have to do on the diet part of things, and putting the information out there that this protocol actually helps heal. Because what the Warburg effect is, essentially, it's a communication breakdown between the cell membranes, which are made up of fatty acids, and protein carriers. So proteins carry everything the cell needs into the cell. So if you've ever tried to mix oil with water, you'll know that's not possible. So the cell membrane is fatty acid or oil, if you like, fats, and that's how the cell regulates what comes in and out. So nothing gets through that barrier. Most nutrients and enzymes that we have in the body are water soluble. And proteins carry everything into the cell. If that communication with the proteins breaks down, which happens in the Warburg effect cell changes that are the cause of cancer and endometriosis, the cell cannot get what it needs. It goes into a fermentation process within itself. And that's why the body also wants to crave sugar, because sugar is high energy that's available without having to go through processes. And the cell kind of survives cut off from the system. So it's in its own fermentation process, and it's in survival mode, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's not really living, it's surviving at the bare minimum. And the immune system doesn't detect it anymore because it's shut off from the rest of the system. Because in a normal functioning body, the immune system would recognize that an endometrioma cell outside the womb is in the wrong place and would just kill that cell and get rid of it. So because the cell is now functioning totally within itself, the immune cells don't detect it anymore. And that is the problem. So this is how cancer cells and endometriosis cells can now grow undetected.
And then they start wreaking havoc on your body.
So Dr. Joanna Budwig was a cell researcher in Germany in the 50s and 60s. Incredible woman. So far ahead of her time. She saw the body as energy, Max Planck, all those energy, the sort of people who are really at the basis of quantum medicine today. This is the people she mixed with and she was surrounded by in very much an isolated research community. So she found out this cell protein miscommunication, then went into what can we do to restore that communication? And she developed a very, very simple diet, literally flaxseed and linseed oil, and something called quark, or equivalent to cottage cheese, or like those high protein yogurts you get these days. They're often called yogurts at the supermarket. So it's important to look, when you look at the label, to see that it's 0% fat, and it has 10 to 11 grams protein. That's what you want. And she just mixed the two, and that gave the body the fats and the proteins it needed to restore the communication between the cell membrane and the protein carriers. Wow. And it was so simple that the pharmaceutical industry did not like it, obviously.
Of course.
So she was dragged, I think, 6 times in front of tribunals in Germany by pharmaceuticals, stopping her work, stopping her research, stopping what she was trying to do. She won every single one of those tribunals, but it cost her so much time and effort. And by that point, she said, look, I know my research is out there. I'm going to come away from the public eye. I cannot be bothered with this anymore. And she went into private practice. She treated cancer patients in Germany. Most of her patients were doctors or relatives or friends of doctors because they knew the research. In the mainstream medical system, this was totally silenced. Until a guy called Herneiser was a cancer researcher in Germany, and he was traveling around the world trying to find what other countries were doing with regards to cancer. And he was in America and came across Budwig. And he was like, how can this be that this is a German woman who was known in the American sort of research community very well for her cancer research, but he was German and she was German, yet he'd never heard of her. So he really then went to find her, and she happened to live 40 minutes away from where he lived.
No, wow.
So he spent the last 6 years of her life, she was in her 90s by that point, with her, and she taught him everything she knew, and she shared all her research materials with him. And yeah, so the clinic that I went to in Germany is set up by him and his best friend. So they set up this Budwig Center, teaching her protocol. And, it's quite well known in Germany. There is a Budwig Center in America as well, and there's one in Spain. So for cancer, for people who want to look at cancer holistically, this is quite a well-known protocol. No one has made the link to endometriosis yet.
Right. Oh my gosh. So how did you end up going there? Like, how did you I know you mentioned a little bit in the podcast, but so now you're at this point, you're doing this research, but how do you end up going?
So I ring them up. They say, this is what we do. It's a month. You'd have to come. It costs 10,000 euros. And I just really trust my intuition by that point. I've already, I think, done my Reiki level 1 and 2 by that point. I've had an introduction to shamanism. So I've started connecting with my spiritual self, or with my higher self. And by that point, I've learned to trust my intuition. And my intuition literally runs riot when I find this research article that links endo and cancer. So I just go, that's it. I'm going. My mom and dad had separated by that point, and my mom had sold the house. So she said, I will give you the 10,000 euros. Because she was like, what's the point of it lying in a bank account and you getting it when I die? I might as well give it you now, and I can see you heal. That was literally her words. It was a month. By that point, I had a 9-year-old still at home, and she said, I'm going to come to England, and I will look after the family for a month. She was amazing. I like, thank you, Mom. So I go to Germany, learn all about, the diet part is the smallest part. There's a detox part, which is very simple: bicarbonate soda baths and coffee enemas. So what your body does when it's under stress and it shuts down and it doesn't properly function with all its normal processes. So detoxing, digestion, hormonal balance, all those things go out the window because you're in that stress flight mode. So the body has all these toxins now that it can't properly eliminate through the liver, the bowel, or the bladder because it's overworked. So what the body does is it stores toxins in the connective tissue. I always say it's a bit like when you have a pile on your desk and you say, well, that's not important. I'm going to deal with that when I'm less busy. And the pile grows bigger and bigger. So the body does that, and it puts toxins into the connective tissue. So by going into a bathtub with bicarbonate soda, you're creating an alkaline environment. And through osmosis, the pores of your skin will open and the toxins can leave your body through the skin. So you can either do that in a full bath and just put a cup of bicarbonate soda in, or you can do it in a foot bath, like a lot of people who've had operations, like cancer operations or whatever, they can't have a full bath. You can stick your feet into a bucket with warm water, about 3 tablespoons of bicarbonate soda in there, and that helps the body take the toxins out that are in the system that it hasn't been able to flush out through bowel, bladder, liver, because it's been too stressed. Our periods, actually, and I didn't know that, are also a massive floodgate for toxins to come out of the body. So it's actually because the body knows once a month for a woman, oh, the floodgates open and there is, an opening for a lot of fluid to come out. So before your period, the body will actually send surplus toxins to your womb so you can bleed that out and flush it out. Yeah, it's incredible, when you think about how intelligent our body actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coffee enemas, bicarbonate soda baths are really your detox mechanism. By changing your diet, you're obviously also detoxing because you're now not putting any rubbish into your system anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm very aware of the timing.
We're good.
So you change your diet. I've changed all my clothing and gone back to natural clothing because, again, everything is energy. So whatever's in your field, acrylic, polyester, all those, cleaning materials that are not natural, all of that is stress for the body. So at the point of healing, you're trying to eliminate as much stress for the body as you can so the body can concentrate on its self-healing mechanism.
Yeah.
And then the rest
I think about all that, like the lotions I used to use and the body wash and all of that just loaded with toxins. I was just putting them in my body. Yeah. I had no idea.
Even changing, like one of the first things I did was changing my tampons and pads to organic cotton.
Yes.
That made a difference.
Yeah. That's incredible. A good tip for everyone who's listening. I also changed all my bras and underwear are organic cotton. I was wearing synthetic. Everything I was wearing was synthetic.
I literally just went to my wardrobe and just went, okay, I'm going to get rid of everything. And I only keep what's natural fibers. And then I went in the UK, we have charity shops, which I love. So it's like secondhand shops. So I just went and restocked slowly in the charity shops with natural fibers. So you
don't have to be it's very overwhelming. You can start very slow and just work towards it. You don't go.
And that, in a way, in my 3-month programs, I slowly lead people into that because you're not going to change everything overnight in one go.
No,
it's doing it step by step, making one habit become your routine.
Yes,
and then you change the next thing, and then that becomes your routine. Then you change the next thing, that becomes your routine, and slowly you're going to change your life.
Yeah.
And you're going to give yourself the surroundings and the environment that your body needs to heal. So if people listening to this haven't come across a guy called Bruce Lipton yet, I encourage you to go online and watch some of his videos. He does a lot on this energy part of how the cells are really, the whole body is just an energy system. And that's how Budwig saw the system. So her protocol is designed with how do we put energy back into the system? How do we give the body the surplus energy it needs so it can go into healing? We need to look at our limiting beliefs. With endometriosis, it's a lot around your role as a woman. How do you see yourself as a woman? And I think to me as women, we have to step back into seeing that as a power. Everything is about career and how much money you can earn, when really money isn't going to help us survive on this planet.
No, it's not. Yeah, I think that's all very well said. And I'm guessing you learned a lot of this, and we'll link, like you said, there's a lot of information about the protocol. So yeah, I know you went there for a month and then you've learned a lot since then, but for everybody who's listening and may just be like, wow, this is a lot of information. Like, we'll link your website and everything, but where does someone start? I know you said with start with some natural fibers and looking at toxins. Struggling right now, where do they start?
So I at some point saw that, I'm working with women, but there is only so many women I can work with because I'm human and I am tied into the time and space conundrum of being on this planet.
Your time is not just endlessly flowing. You have to sleep.
And I realized how many millions of women are out there that are suffering like I did. So I ended up writing a book. And that was part of me finding my voice, was writing a book about my journey. So that book is available on Amazon and in America on Balboa Press Bookstore as well.
Okay.
So
link it.
If you go, we'll put the link in, but from Endo War to Inner Peace, my healing journey from stage 4 endometriosis by Wenke Langhoff is, if you just Google Wenke Langhoff, it's such an unusual name, you're going to find it. So the book is out there. The audiobook has just been released as well about 3 weeks ago. So for those of you who don't like reading but prefer listening, that's there. I would say that's a good starting point. Budwig Protocol, there's loads and loads of information online. Go and check out my YouTube channel. It will be increasing. I've only just started it, but I will be sharing recipes and, I'm going to record how we do an enema and all that sort of stuff. So my aim now is to get that message out there, to share it with the world, because we shouldn't be suffering from our periods. We should be powerful creators of life as women.
I love that. It's so beautiful. And you feel today, like you just feel better. You feel
I have had no
different.
symptoms since 2018. And in the beginning, I really doubted the longevity of this kind of thing. And I thought, well, I'm going to wait 5 years to prove that this, I thought, well, cancer patients after 5 years, the medical system says they're in remission. Our society somehow has a problem with calling people healed. I don't know why that is, but I think it's because we have a medical system that only benefits and profits from people who are ill, ideally chronically ill. So they need treatment and medication forever, and that's how the business model works. So I call myself healed. But to be able to do that, I felt I needed to give it the 5 years for it not to come back before I could go out there to the world and say, I'm healed, and I healed endometriosis. So I'm having a mental block now. What was I going to say?
Brain fog.
Brain fog
still happens.
Yeah, so I'm now 49, so I've not had any symptoms. I have tested this, and I've gone back off the diet and tested what effect does that have. I've gone back to allowing more stress into my life and tested what effect does that have. And so when my stress levels went up again, slowly I wouldn't say it was the pain, but it was like a phantom pain. It was like having endometriosis pain through cotton wool. And that would be enough for me to go, I'm going to go back on my meditation cushion. I'm going to go back to a better work-life balance. I'm going to go back to using Budwig or to just going on a healthy diet. It doesn't have to be Budwig. Budwig really helps to heal, and I would recommend anyone doing it in the beginning. And even with Budwig, you can have 1 day a week where you have meat or fish and animal protein. But generally, it has to be a healthy lifestyle. If you go back to eating fast food or rubbish, your symptoms will come back.
The inflammation, I mean, it's just, again, it's an inflammatory disease.
Yeah, they're inflammatory foods.
Yeah. Well, that's what, I mean, I think it's incredible that you waited the 5 years, that you read the research, that you went, but now that you're speaking out and wrote a book and trying to help other people, we need alternative methods for this disease. It shouldn't just be like have surgery after surgery after surgery. That's just so hard on the body. And, I love that there's alternative methods and that you went and tested it. And like you said, I'm going to go test it and be the one.
And I haven't just tested it on myself. I have worked with endometriosis women, and it works. If you follow the protocol, it works.
Yeah, that's also really incredible. So tell me a little bit about, what you're doing now, and how you're helping patients. Like you said, you have this 12-week program. Just for people who are listening, tell us about what you're doing, how they can find you. If someone wants to reach out and inquire about it, what should they do?
So my website is www.wenke, which is WENKE Langhoff, LANGHOF.com. I've got Instagram, also Wenke Langhoff. read my book, I would say, or listen to it. That I think is a really good, cheap way of getting all the information. I've put the daily routine in there. I've put in exactly how do you do the enemas and etc. So all the information is in the book, basically. And it's there for whatever. I don't know what it's in the US, $12 maybe. It's not, it's not a lot of money, considering you're getting everything that I paid 10 grand for.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm really not in this. I don't want to make any money out of this. I just want to help people. So yeah, if you feel you need help, come and connect with me. Feel free to send me a message via the website. I'm very happy to share even some of the basic Budwig documents, etc. They will be shared. Follow me on the YouTube channel. There's a lot of consciousness, spirituality stuff on there as well. It's learning to see the world in a different way and going back into a positive mindset, which will put your body into that healing mode. So yeah, that's where you can find me out there in the world. And obviously, for those of you who feel called, come and work with me.
Beautiful. And don't worry, everyone, I will link everything in the show notes. So I know sometimes people are walking or driving or cleaning the house when they're listening to this. And we do have a global listening audience, but I'm sure Amazon serves everybody. But we'll link everything in the show notes for sure. So don't worry about writing it all down while you're listening.
Brilliant. Yeah. Work with someone who works with the subconscious. So there is quantum healing hypnosis technique. I use matrix reimprinting and EFT. So find a practitioner near you that will be able to go into your subconscious to work on those beliefs, to reprogram the limiting beliefs as women we all have about our role in this lifetime and the purpose we serve. And it is linked, the sort of area of the womb is very much linked with the area of the throat and the voice. So it's us speaking our truth. And that can be thyroid issues, for instance, which a lot of women have as well. So it doesn't have to necessarily be voice issues.
Yeah.
But there is a
link. I have Hashimoto's.
Yeah, Hashimoto, typical second chronic illness for an endometriosis sufferer. Mm-hmm. So it's looking at the links between them. And actually, there's a girl called Yvette Rose who has written a book called Metaphysical Anatomy, Your Body is Talking, Are You Listening? Highly recommend that book. It has all the illnesses listed that exist in the world, and you can have a look at what are the emotional patterns I'm looking out for when I have this illness. That will really help you to go back into your childhood, into your soul path that you've already lived that led you into illness. So you can work on those patterns and just release them so you can live your best life.
Is there anything else that we missed that you want to add before we say goodbye to everybody today?
Healing is possible. I think that's my message. The whole medical system says you've got a chronic illness. That's what they always told me. You have to live with it. No, I'm here to tell you you don't have to live with it.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing it. I'm like, okay, I need to check all of this out immediately because I still have a lot of ups and downs with this illness, and it's been a long journey. So thank you for just being willing to help other people and everything that you shared with us today. This is going to be incredibly helpful. So thank you very much. And thank you everyone for listening and being here and supporting the show. Everything will be linked in the show notes. If you found value, please rate us in the Apple Podcast or Spotify, hopefully 5 stars, but don't feel obligated to do that. But thank you for being here and listening, and forward the show to somebody else who may need to hear it, who's struggling right now, and just know that there's hope and you're never alone. Thank you everyone so much for listening.